Disney earnings call was today, and we're going to talk about what they revealed. This is for the quarter 3 of this year. Yeah, this one's for the third quarter. Basically, this is like April, May, and June is essentially what this covers here.
Yeah, definitely. So basically the spring. It covers the spring.
Right. They said that the Walt Disney Company reported that they achieved a record revenue in the third quarter of the fiscal 2025, marking a standout performance for the company's experiences segment. They said that Disney's experiences operating income grew 8% in quarter 3, an increase from earlier full-year guidance of 7%. Johnson noted that Walt Disney World just had a record quarter 3 revenue number, and so the company is feeling great about that as it heads into the final quarter of the fiscal year. Said guest spending per caps, which means each guest coming in, increased, which makes sense given the price increases. Cruise line occupancy remains high. Fourth quarter bookings for experiences segment are currently up about 6%. And they said Paris is performing well. Shanghai Disney continues to face pressures.
And that's really what we want to focus on is really the experiences part.
Right.
For this show.
Well, and they didn't, it was really interesting. So I listened to the earnings call, and they did not focus much on the parks. Like, they didn't give attendance number. Like, they really don't ever do that anyways. They kind of, for as much money as the experiences segment brings in, it was kind of interesting they really didn't spend much time on it. They were really focused more on that ESPN NFL deal that they struck, which I think is one, but basically, it seemed that the attendance was flat again, but revenue was up.
Well, I think we discussed this earlier. Is that's like yes, it's going to be up if your attendance is stagnant, if it's not like doesn't grow, but you keep increasing prices. Yeah, guest spending is going to be more.
Right, and I think the thing I've said, like, this is obviously Disney's plan.
Sure.
They've been doing this for years of basically charging more, trying to get more out of per guest that come through, not being as focused on the attendance numbers necessarily, but just the overall revenue. My question has been and continues to be, though, is this a strategy that works in the long term? Because I do think at some point you have a lot of risks in this scenario of just relying on, let's say you have a quarter where, your attendance can really get hit and then you don't have as much revenue, or just the fact that people aren't spending as much. That's where my questions lie with it. But clearly this is what Disney has wanted to do. And they saw another quarter, which it's not often you see, like, one would assume revenue growth would be with attendance growth, but that kind of didn't happen here, which it's interesting because they've done this the past few quarters.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that it's up during the spring.
No, they had a good, spring break, I think, is always very popular. What will be very interesting is what's going to be the fiscal financial report for this summer. Because we've seen a lot of stuff talked about that the attendance this summer has not been great. It hasn't been, summer is not a time period where people are really traveling to theme parks as much, especially since COVID.
Right.
But even like Touring Plans was talking about summer attendance at Disney World. It's been the lowest since like 2022, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious as to what that will look like in the next earnings report for this summer.
Well, too, July, they ran a bunch of those deals for annual pass holders specifically and Disney Plus subscribers. So there's a lot of people that maybe weren't going to go in July that were like, you know what, we'll take this deal. This is a really cheap deal to go to Disney World and everything. And even with that, just kind of looking at wait times occasionally through, like every couple of days or whatever, I'll just be like, oh, it doesn't seem very as busy as it usually does. Like, obviously you can't measure everything in attendance by wait times, but it gives you a little gauge a little bit. And like, we're coming into the slowest time of the year. It used to be January a long time ago. It used to be January, February. And now it's like the last 2-ish weeks of August. Is like the slowest time of the year. And so we've got July being slow. August is notoriously slower as well. September isn't as slow as it used to be. It's still slowish, compared to other times of the year. So I think that quarter 4, we'll see how it goes. I don't know what the attendance will do, but maybe guest spending will be up because of all the Halloween stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's, like I said, I got a lot of questions going into the next one and how that trend is looking. Because the next one, I mean, this one counted, if you're looking at, say, people looking at, Epic Universe affecting Disney or whatever, this one would have counted for the same thing with Comcast as essentially 1 month of Epic being open as part of these numbers. So the next one will be an entire, segment of with Epic open, what it looks like for them and all that stuff like that. So it's, like I said, I mean, numbers are up for them. They're going to like that. I do have some questions about, is this a legitimate, like, long-term strategy, like 5+ years that you can continue down this path without having to make some changes? I guess we can put it that way. But
I do not know.
We will find out one way or the other, undoubtedly. But it's also hard in the earnings call because they don't actually break down, like, they'll just say experiences segment, which also includes cruise line, all the things. So they really don't break things down into very specific numbers.
Experiences includes parks, merchandise, and cruise lines. So that's
they
all
did
together.
say that Lilo and Stitch was, like, now their number 2 selling like merchandise line.
Licensed products. I saw that.
Which is interesting because that means I'd like to know. I wonder if Star Wars is still number 1, but that means either Star Wars or Marvel has definitely fallen off that top tier.
Mickey Mouse is number 1.
So Star Wars and Marvel are both now below Lilo and Stitch.
Mm-hmm. At least it was for.
That's kind of wild. Not surprising because Lilo and Stitch stuff sells like crazy.
Yeah,
but very interesting. So,